So I wasn't going to upload this video because I was stuck in my head thinking, what can I say that adds to the appraisal conversation? But I was just sitting here on this beautiful Friday and I was thinking, so what if Beyonce thought, what can I add to R&B? Or what if Rihanna thought, what can I add to makeup? You think they had those doubts? I don't know. But what I do know is they did it anyway.
During the pre-approval process, your lender will likely order what's called an appraisal. The appraisal comes after the agreement of sale is submitted. This is something the lender will do to double check the price of the home. If you are a buyer and you're paying cash, this is not required. However, still recommend it, but that's completely up to you. Think of it like this. People price check everything. We as buyers have been fact-checking prices, especially since weekly circulars. Do you remember when appliance sellers would all have to advertise their specific model so we as buyers could compare prices and then decide which store we wanted to go to? The same thing still happens with everything from DVDs, Xbox game consoles, cameras, TVs, and cars. So of course, your lender, who is likely shelling out a considerable amount of money, wants to make sure there is enough collateral to support the sale price. Remember, lenders are taking a risk when they lend you these large sums of money. So a property appraisal lets them decide whether or not the home is valuable enough to take that risk. In the case of cars, you probably use Kelley Blue Book to check the value. Well, for houses, realtors and appraisers are your Kelley Blue Book. The appraisal is looking for likeness in location, school district, age, size, condition, improvements, features, updates and renovations, interior, exterior, lot size, just to name a few. That's what we're looking for when we're trying to gauge the price. As a seller, you might believe you're asking a fair price for your home, but the home appraisal can tell a different story. You can choose to hold out for an all-cash buyer or someone who's willing to pay extra for the home, but the reality is only about 20% of home buyers pay cash. What you do then is you're alienating 80% of the buyer pool. Everyone would like a cash buyer. Wouldn't we all? But what are the odds? So just try to keep an open mind. Many sellers also prefer all cash because it avoids financing delays and reduces the chances of an offer falling through. When housing demands are up, cash purchases may rise in response to a more competitive market, which is what we've seen over the last 2 years with the recent surge in the seller's market since COVID. There were even programs that were being offered to buyers so that they could submit their offer as cash. It wasn't exactly the same as cash, but they were funding these loans and then doing the mortgage kind of in the background. I'm not exactly sure what happened because I didn't have any transactions go through that way, but I heard about it. Now, if you're a seller, you might be wondering, how can I help? It can be helpful to provide a list of upgrades, noticeable and less visible changes. Go through the home and put together a list of upgrades and improvements. This is especially valuable for things like insulation, energy efficient windows, replacing the roof. Those are the things that aren't really visible, but they're big investments. So if you have the documentation to support that, that is useful for you to have ready for the appraiser. Now, sometimes a lender will actually waive the appraisal, and this is generally when there is a strong buyer or a strong, straightforward sales price that is likely digitally supported by surrounding comps in the area. So if a lot of homes in your community have sold at a certain price, that works in your favor as a seller or a buyer because there is information readily available to support that price. So then they'll waive the appraisal fee. The appraisal is paid for by the buyer, typically. Remember, the whole purpose of an appraisal by the buyer's lender is because the lender is looking for assurance that the property is sufficient collateral and worth the amount the buyer has agreed to pay. Now, what happens if the appraisal comes in above the purchase price? Then you feel confident that you've made a good deal and you can move forward with confidence. What happens if the appraisal comes in low? There is a report and the realtor will review it to see if there are any big discrepancies. Buyers can make up the difference in cash if you have it, and that's something you want to do. This happened quite a lot during those escalated 2 years that we had in the seller's market. Something else is the buyer and seller can renegotiate, because the seller doesn't want to put their home back on the market if they found a buyer, so maybe they're willing to work with you on the price. As a buyer, you can walk away from the sale because your lender is not going to overfund the house. Just because you have that extra money in your pre-approval budget or bucket, the lender, if they don't believe the home is worth that price, they're not going to give you that additional money. They're only going to give you the money up to the appraisal price. What happens when you want to pay the seller's asking price because you have the pre-approval to support it, but the bank appraisal comes in lower? The lender likely won't approve the mortgage loan if the appraisal comes in lower than the purchase price. And an all-cash buyer might not be willing to pay extra for the home. So it's really in the seller's best interest to reconsider. Then it's time to negotiate. The appraisal supports the loan amount. Accurate appraisals are based on accurate information. Cash buyers don't have this concern. Cash buyers do need to prove they're financially able to pay the seller before moving forward. Cash buyers need to be able to provide proof of funds at the time of the offer, because the seller wants to know that you have the money if they accept your offer.
Well, because I'm still not feeling 100% really confident about the video, I'm going to queue up one of my highly viewed videos for your viewing pleasure. Thanks so much for watching. My name is Tiffany Nelson. I'm a realtor here in the greater Lehigh Valley, greater Allentown area. If you are here and you need a realtor, if you're moving to the area and you need a realtor, I would love to talk. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.